Hello there, American Literature 2 students. I do hope that the course is going well for you thus far. Um, this short lecture is in regards to William Carlos Williams's epic poem, Paterson. Um, you should be able to detect some of the same use of modernist aesthetics and form that we learned about last week or the previous week with T.S. Eliot, Ezra Pound, Amy Lowell, and others. The experimentation with poetic form and the way of kind of thinking of modernity through the lens of poetry. Um, our piece, Paterson, is different. It's a sprawling five-book poem about one place, Paterson, New Jersey. Modernist poetry is often short, concise, it's imagistic. He has those traits, but this isn't a long, massive poem um, that is five books published in 1946. And the parts do connect, and there are connective themes, and he does move somewhat chronologically through the history of Paterson. Um, I should say that Paterson is a city in northern New Jersey. It's a busy industrial city, but it also has a waterfall. It's next to the falls. Western New Jersey becomes somewhat mountainous. So we're talking about an area that has mountains, falls next to it. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of the things that he mentions in this poem are mills and working class industrial things around there. You could do that around a rock quarry, falls, and so forth. Um, the actual Paterson poem is an interesting one. I don't expect you to read the entire thing. I'd like you to give it a good try, and I'd like you to read several hours. And that's why I have an assignment connected with this where you talk about some of the general meanings of the poem, some of the individual vignettes that he uses. But one of the things that I think could help you in understanding what is a notoriously difficult poem is, well, it's not that difficult. Um, is that he's writing in different voices and he's trying to create a theory for language. No language but in things. That's a modernist idea that the physical, tangible object should be the thing that is being evoked for the reader, not the abstraction, as Ezra Pound would write about. But the idea would be I think there's one master speaker for the entire poem, but then goes into several subsets of voices. One of which is a female writer. You could find this around page 86, who is simultaneously interested in Paterson. Patterson's the speaker of Paterson the poem, right? So there's a speaker named Paterson, who is a well-known poet. It's William Carlos Williams. But she's also this female writer who's writing to him, put off. He seems to have come on to her in an unwanted advance, and she's talking about femininity, breaking into the writing business, and the tone changes as the letter goes on. That's just one of the many MINI narratives embedded within these poems within Paterson. I'll tell you a little bit about some more, but first let me mention to you some of the form. The archive.org piece that I've saved for you, you're reading from, does not approximate the form of Paterson. Paterson, as a poem, looks on the page like a waterfall falling. Um, the lines are out here. It looks like an E. E. Cummings poem, right? It just the lines are spreading and sprawling. He's experimenting with form. So you can't see that on the archive.org site not very well. If you look at the dust jacket that I used for this week's visual drawing, you can see some of it on the left-hand part. Um, but what you should know about Paterson and the different voices. Sometimes the speaker's just giving an historical account. Sometimes the speaker is trying to draw on a larger theory of language. No ideas but in things, all that. Some of the accounts are of people doing daredevil acts over the waterfall, like a tightrope one. It usually ends in tragedy, or there's something that goes amiss. Some of them are about a picnic. Sometimes a speaker eroticizes the falls as if he's touching the falls. And if like a male, uh, anyway, you don't need me to explain. Uh, but the rest of the vignettes, the rest of the narratives, are based upon several things. They're based upon workers around the falls and the businesses. They're based upon competitive businessmen around the falls. They're based upon tragedies towards Native Americans around the falls. Again, there's a history that goes on from I want to say the 1700s all the way into 1946 when Williams was writing this. So you've kind of got it's basically a historical account with a poetic element embedded. And the historical account looks like straightforward narrative when you're looking at it on the regular page. The poetic account looks like a poem, right? Set apart in different couplets and so forth. Um, but the other things that you should know about the poem, William Carlos Williams as a person is a doctor, so you'll get medical and physician references. So he was a poet, but also a doctor, and so you get a lot of the references to a doctor. Well, some, maybe not a lot. He writes about people with special needs, and he had direct encounters with them, and so you'll get people who are different. He might call them non-PC terms like dwarfs, but you'll get that. You'll get country people. You get city people who many of the people he describes are onlookers who are looking for a picnic on a weekend or something like that, where they're just going to the falls like a family would go out to a park on a weekend. So I think that he's approaching the falls from all these different angles. There's this large geography that he's building upon. He references Whitman at one point in Camden. So I mean, he's looking at the falls and on Paterson. He's looking at the larger region. So it's kind of a study of region as well. Um, you will find the female writer that I talked about if you keep reading it, and I think that those letters are very interesting. So that's part of it. Um, I like book three. I think book one's excellent. The way that it starts off with the sound mimicking the sound of the falls, so he's playing with phonetics as well. Um, just keep in mind the visual of Paterson. You're welcome to look up images of Paterson, New Jersey. I know it doesn't sound very romantic, but it's a pretty place. Um, and look those up. There's also a recent film starring Adam Driver, the guy who plays in the Star Wars saga as Kylo Ren. I recommend it. It's a good little film. So that deals with Paterson. It's called Paterson. Um, one T, not two. And I think you'll enjoy this poem. And take care. Good luck.